At first, bad habits don't look dangerous. You stay up too late, eat something greasy, skip the gym. It feels like nothing in the moment, but the body keeps score. Each choice leaves a mark that adds up over years. What looks harmless at first slowly builds toward disease, collapse, and an early end. We don't fall apart overnight. We fall apart in layers across decades. And the danger isn't always obvious because many of these habits feel normal, even comfortable. Millions live with them every day, never realizing how far they've already climbed the scale. Let's walk through every stage of bad habits, from the little things you brush off to the habits that bring life to a breaking point. Stage 1. Late nights that steal your sleep. The cycle begins with short nights. A phone screen glowing at midnight, another episode, another scroll. You wake up groggy, but coffee masks the fog. It seems harmless, but the body is already paying. Blood pressure ticks upward, fat burning slows, the immune system weakens. One night awake is enough to trigger micro-sleeps, those split-second blackouts behind the wheel that cause countless crashes. Drivers who thought they were just a little tired never made it home. Sleep debt feels like an inconvenience, but it can kill in an instant. Even years of mild sleep loss, like 5 or 6 hours per night, can double the risk of dying young from heart disease or stroke. It doesn't just shorten life at the end, it takes years from the middle too. Stage 2. Living on junk and sugar. Busy schedules push meals aside. Fast food, vending machines, energy drinks fill the gap. The sugar spike feels good for a moment, but the crash drags you down. Over months, fat builds in the liver, weight creeps up, and blood vessels grow stiff. For many, the first sign something is wrong isn't during a checkup. It's when a clot suddenly blocks blood flow to the heart. A seemingly ordinary lifestyle of takeout and soda can collapse into tragedy before age 40. One man in his 30s lived on energy drinks and fast food while working construction. He collapsed on the job site one morning from a heart attack. His co-workers couldn't believe it. He wasn't overweight, he looked strong, but his arteries had been clogging for years. Stage 3. Sitting your life away. Work, cars, screens, and couches keep us sitting for hours. The body was built to move, but in this world, it doesn't have to. Muscles weaken, posture folds, blood circulation slows until clots silently form in the legs. Doctors see it in young professionals. A long-haul flight, a marathon coding session, then sudden chest pain as a clot hits the lungs. What looks like harmless desk work can lead directly to death in minutes. And it doesn't take an extreme case. Even sitting 8 to 10 hours a day raises the risk of dying early by more than 30%. Exercise helps, but it doesn't erase the damage if sitting is the default. Stage 4. Stress that never switches off. Stress by itself is useful, a burst of energy when danger strikes, but modern stress never ends. Bills, deadlines, arguments keep the body in survival mode around the clock. Blood pressure rises, sugar stays high, sleep suffers. After years, arteries stiffen and the heart strains against constant pressure. For some, the first symptom is a stroke at the breakfast table, speech slurring as a vessel bursts in the brain. Stress is invisible, but it can kill as surely as a weapon. Soldiers returning from war zones often show heart problems decades earlier than expected, not just from battle, but from years of stress hormones chewing away at their arteries. The body never forgets. Stage 5. Skin under the sun. It doesn't feel like a habit, but hours of sun without protection scar the body slowly. Every burn leaves damage written in DNA. Years later, those scars grow into skin cancers. Melanoma is the most feared, a small dark patch on the skin that can spread into the brain, lungs, or liver. One lifeguard who laughed at sunscreen noticed a mole that changed shape. By the time he acted, the cancer had already spread. Sun felt like warmth and freedom, but it was quietly writing his end. Doctors warn that just 5 severe burns in a lifetime can double your risk of melanoma. It doesn't take a lifetime of tanning beds. A few summers of carelessness are enough to plant seeds that grow into something deadly. Stage 6. Drinking your evenings. Alcohol begins as a way to relax. A beer after work, a glass of wine at dinner, a few more on weekends. But the body takes the hit every time. Sleep becomes shallow. Blood pressure rises. The liver strains to keep up. Eventually, it scars beyond repair. The truth is, alcoholism doesn't need any help from other bad habits to destroy you. Taken far enough, it's just as destructive as piling stress, smoking, and junk food together. Yellow skin, swollen bellies, bleeding in the gut. These are the final signs. Hospitals are full of patients in their 40s and 50s with cirrhosis, looking decades older than they are. Some drank for decades. Others spiraled in just a few years. One woman thought wine was safer than liquor. By her mid-40s, she needed a transplant that never came. Stage 7. Breathing in smoke. Smoking once carried glamour, but the reality is destruction. Each inhale coats the lungs in tar, paralyzes the tiny hairs that clean your airways, and fills the blood with carbon monoxide instead of oxygen. Over years, the body starves. This isn't just about lung cancer. Smoking eats into the heart, bladder, kidneys, and even the bones. Teeth rot, skin wrinkles, and breath vanishes climbing stairs. And when taken to the extreme, smoking alone is as destructive as any combination of bad habits, cutting life short even for those who avoid every other risk. Hospitals have seen lifelong smokers enter surgery for a simple broken bone and never leave, because their lungs couldn't handle anesthesia. The habit doesn't just steal years at the end, it poisons every system in between. Stage 8. Losing muscle, losing movement. The less you move, the harder moving becomes. Muscles fade, bones weaken, joints stiffen. What starts as skipping walks and workouts ends in frailty. Elderly patients who stop moving often spiral quickly, not from age itself, but from disuse. A simple fall can shatter a hip. Without strength to recover, infections set in. One winter, a man who stopped leaving the house slipped on ice. Surgery fixed the bone, but weakness meant he never regained independence. Within months, he was gone. Studies show that older adults who keep exercising live years longer, not just because of fitness, but because they avoid the falls and infections that end so many lives too soon. Stage 9. Neglecting your teeth, skipping brushing, ignoring floss, living on sugar. It seems cosmetic at first, but infections in the mouth don't stay there. Bacteria seep into the blood, straining the heart and sometimes infecting its valves. Dentists have seen patients land in intensive care from abscesses left untreated. One man ignored a swollen gum until fever set in. By the time he sought help, the infection had spread to his heart. A habit as small as skipping a toothbrush had nearly ended his life. Chronic gum disease has also been linked to strokes and even Alzheimer's. A dirty mouth may sound minor, but the risks reach the brain itself. Stage 10. Chasing highs. Pain pills for an injury, a tablet for sleep, then stronger hits for escape. The brain rewires itself to crave only the next dose. Food, family, and work fade away. Addiction isn't just a habit, it's a trap. Overdoses stop breathing in minutes. Mixing pills with alcohol multiplies the risk. A single bag of street drugs, stronger than expected, can be the last. Like alcohol and smoking, hard drug abuse doesn't need company to kill. It can wreck the body as completely as every other bad habit stacked together. A young athlete injured in college started with prescription painkillers. Within 3 years, he was using heroin. His heart infection from shared needles landed him in the hospital, and within weeks, he was gone. What began as treatment had turned into destruction. Stage 11. Skipping the doctor. Fear, pride, or laziness turn into deadly habits when people ignore warning signs. A lump, a cough, high blood pressure, explained away, left to grow. Early cancers that could be cured become terminal. Strokes that could be prevented arrive without warning. One woman felt a lump in her breast, but waited months, convincing herself it was nothing. By the time she was checked, the cancer had already spread. Her delay, not the disease itself, sealed her fate. Doctors say the most tragic cases are the ones that were treatable if caught earlier. The habit of ignoring care kills silently. Stage 12. When habits stack together. This is the storm at the top. Short sleep, junk food, sitting, stress, drinking, smoking, ignoring doctors, all piling into one body. Organs fail together, and one small trigger tips the system over. A flu turns into pneumonia. A fall turns into a fatal spiral. Doctors see it often. Men and women in their 50s or 60s with diabetes, high blood pressure, damaged lungs, and scarred livers, collapsing under an infection that a healthier body would survive. It isn't just one habit anymore, it's all of them, dragging life down at once. Stage 13. The final collapse. At the very top is the quiet fall of everything at once. Breath shortens, strength fades, organs give out. Some describe it as looking decades older in just a few years. Heart attacks, strokes, and organ failure arrive in waves until the body can't rise again. This is where bad habits lead when they are never challenged. Not a sudden accident, but a slow-motion ending written by years of choices. Bad habits don't start with disaster. They start with comfort, convenience, or escape. A late night, a drink, a cigarette, a skipped appointment, but each one leaves a mark, and together they bring life to its breaking point. The good news is that habits cut both ways. Just as one bad habit can shorten your life, one good habit can begin to save it. Choosing water over soda, a walk over another hour sitting, sleep over scrolling, or a checkup instead of silence. Small steps that bend the story back in your favor. One habit may hurt you, but one habit may save you. That's the power of choice, and every day is a chance to rewrite the ending.